Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're plunging right into the heart of a cinematic earthquake. I mean, forget just watching a movie. We're talking about a cultural phenomenon that didn't just land in the 90s. It completely fundamentally reshaped things.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a film, it was a statement, a masterpiece that really showed what independent cinema could pull off.
The topic: Quentin Tarantino's legendary Pulp Fiction. And to help us really get into its layers, we've got a great stack of sources here.
Yeah, we've looked at interviews, really intimate ones with the cast and the producers, people who were there.
Plus sharp analysis from film critics, writers, and then, the solid factual stuff from encyclopedic sources too.
And our mission, well, it's pretty clear. Take all this material, all these viewpoints, and kind of boil it down. We want to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights, basically give you a shortcut to understanding not just the movie itself, but how it got made, why it had such a huge impact, and, well, why we're still talking about it today.
And we'll definitely uncover some surprising facts, hopefully have a bit of fun with it too. So, ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so to really get Pulp Fiction, you kind of have to start with the guy behind it, Quentin Tarantino. The sources paint this picture of him back then. Just a total movie fanatic, buzzing with energy, but, and this is important, completely broke.
Yeah, like not a cent to his name broke is what some sources say. He'd spent years just, hitting the pavement, writing.
People forget sometimes he wrote Natural Born Killers and True Romance before Pulp Fiction.
Right, and he'd heard no plenty of times, been told his scripts, well, sucked, basically.
Then comes Reservoir Dogs.
Yep.
The story that keeps popping up is just how fast he wrote that script.
3.5 weeks. On a typewriter, no less.
Yeah.
And the initial idea was super lean, right? Like maybe 50 grand budget, shoot it on 16 millimeter.
Just bare bones.
And that's where Lawrence Bender steps in. He's highlighted everywhere as just this crucial figure.
He's the one who looked at Reservoir Dogs and was like, okay, I think I can actually get the money for this.
Uh-huh. And he was also the calming influence in that early chaos, apparently telling Tarantino, calm down, they're not going to fire you, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Tarantino even gave Bender a deadline, didn't he? Like something out of a movie plot itself to get the financing sorted.
It makes you think about those early partnerships, two really hungry, driven people pushing each other. One source actually mentioned it reminded them of their own similar start.
And the satisfaction for Tarantino.
Mm.
After all that time, all those rejections, finally getting paid for the thing he loved and poured everything into.
Yeah, the sources say it really, really meant a lot to him. Just that feeling of validation. It was just so cool for him. It wasn't just the cash.
Absolutely. Okay, so Reservoir Dogs happens, it finds an audience, it makes a splash. Then Tarantino turns to Pulp Fiction. And the concept for this one, it felt different right from the start, didn't it?
Yeah, he had this idea, apparently inspired by reading novels, of telling 3 separate stories. Not just one linear plot. Characters could drift in and out, their paths crossing, their importance shifting, depending on which story you were in.
And his stated goal was really specific and kind of brilliant. He wanted to take the oldest chestnuts of crime fiction.
Right. The tropes we all know. We've seen them a million times.
Like the hitman who has to take the boss's wife out for the night.
But absolutely cannot touch her.
Yeah.
Or the boxer who's supposed to take a dive. Real standard stuff.
But the twist was everything.
Yeah.
He deliberately wanted those classic setups to just run awry.
Exactly. That was the magic trick.
Yeah.
Take these genre characters, these familiar situations, and then apply some of real life's rules to them. What happens when the neat formula gets messy? How do these archetypes kind of unravel when reality hits?
They mention a specific example in the sources, too. Picturing Butch Coolidge, the boxer. Basically like Ralph Meeker's Mike Hammer in Kiss Me Deadly.
Yeah.
That real sort of tough, almost unlikable energy was the starting point for Butch.
And then, of course, there's the structure, which is what hits you immediately when you watch it. It just completely throws chronological order out the window.
Yeah, it follows those 3 main stories. Vincent, Butch, Jules, but they're all interwoven and broken up into 7 distinct chunks.
7 narrative sequences, yeah. And the sources even list the titles from those famous intertitles.
Right, starts with Prologue the Diner, then there's a prelude.
Then Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife, the Gold Watch.
The Bonnie situation.
Yeah.
And then it loops right back around with Epilogue the Diner.
It's circular, it's totally deliberate, and yeah, it's disorienting, but in a really cool way.
So bringing those characters and that, absolutely unique dialogue to life, that needed some very specific actors.
Oh, definitely. The sources mentioned Tarantino has this Unique talent for finding people that know how to use language, and you see it here.
This isn't your standard movie talk. It's got its own music.
Totally. Let's talk about some of the casting stories because they are pretty wild.
Starting with John Travolta as Vincent Vega. Maybe one of the biggest career comebacks ever.
Huge. Tarantino cast him after Michael Madsen, who was Vic Vega in Reservoir Dogs, remember, chose to do another movie.
And Harvey Weinstein apparently wanted Daniel Day-Lewis. Can you imagine?
No. But Tarantino, he was set on Travolta, and Travolta took a huge pay cut for it, like $100 or maybe $140K, depending on who you read, which is peanuts for him then.
Wow. But it paid off. Oscar nomination totally revitalized his career.
And they even mentioned that whole unrealized Vega Brothers movie idea with him and Madsen. Shame that never happened.
Then Samuel L. Jackson as Jules Winfield. His audition, apparently the second one, where he did the final diner scene.
That was it. That sealed the deal for Tarantino. And the look, the Jerry curl, that was almost an accident.
Really? How so?
Well, the script said afro, but someone mistakenly bought a Jerry curl wig. Jackson saw it, liked it, and persuaded Tarantino to keep it, and boom, iconic.
Crazy how those things happen.
Okay.
Lawrence Fishburne turned the role down, right?
Yeah, famously. Sources suggest maybe he felt it wasn't a lead role, or maybe he had issues with the heroin stuff in the script. Hard to say for sure.
But Jackson's performance, Oscar nomination. And he just became the Samuel L. Jackson after that.
Absolutely. And Uma Thurman as Mia Wallace, another key piece. Miramax was pushing for bigger names at the time, like Holly Hunter or Meg Ryan.
But Tarantino met Thurman, and that was it. He knew.
She ended up being the face of the movie on posters, everything, got the Oscar nomination, became an A-lister, though apparently she didn't jump straight into huge blockbusters right away.
Interesting. Now, Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe, that was different.
Oh, yeah, that role was written specifically for him. Kind of a thank you, wasn't it? For being so crucial in getting Reservoir Dogs off the ground. Tarantino apparently called him his favorite actor since he was 16.
Nice. And Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, the dime robbers.
Written for them, too. Roth just used his normal London accent, and Roth actually introduced Plummer to Tarantino.
And asked for her to have a really big gun. You gotta love that.
Yeah. Apparently TriStar, who initially had the project before Miramax, wanted Johnny Depp or Christian Slater for Roth's part.
Wow. And Tarantino even considered Roth as Vincent and Gary Oldman as Jules. Two English guys.
Imagine that. The possibilities. Ving Rhames as Marcellus Wallace, though. His audition was apparently legendary.
Described as one of the best auditions I've ever seen. And the role had been offered to Max Julien and Sid Haig before him.
But Rhames nailed it. And that performance just opened doors for him in bigger movies immediately.
Maria de Medeiros, who plays Fabienne, Butch's girlfriend.
Tarantino just met her on the festival circuit with Reservoir Dogs. Serendipity.
And then there's Bruce Willis. He was the biggest name they landed.
Yeah, the biggest star. He took a pay cut too, like Travolta. But his name, that was gold.
Absolutely critical, wasn't it? Helped lock in $11 million in overseas rights, which basically meant the film was profitable before it even opened in the U.S.
Huge. And a little side note, one source mentioned his wife and daughter were actually in the audience at a recent TCM Film Festival event discussing the movie.
That's cool. So the actors themselves, what did they think of that dialogue when they got the scripts?
They loved it. They consistently said it felt real, like real people talking, which they found a relief.
It felt like stage work, apparently, because the writing demanded that level of respect. You couldn't just phone it in.
And that's where you get that classic Tarantino thing, these gangsters, these hitmen talking about, well, everyday stuff.
Quarter pounders with cheese in Paris, foot massages, girlfriends, mundane things.
Right. One actor even compared that kind of small talk amidst the violence to Harold Pinter, called Tarantino Modern Pinter on film.
Grounding the crazy situations in just talk.
And the vibe on set. By all accounts, amazing. People described it like summer camp.
Great crew. Everyone totally into it. Apparently, Tarantino's own enthusiasm was just infectious.
Yeah, it infects everybody. Sounds like a great set to be on.
Okay, so moving beyond the characters and the dialogue, which is endlessly quotable, the film is just stuffed with these other fascinating little details, motifs, things that have kept people talking for decades.
Oh, yeah. And the biggest one, probably, is the mysterious briefcase. What's in the briefcase?
The eternal question. Tarantino himself, according to the sources, calls it a MacGuffin.
Right, the Hitchcock term. It drives the plot because the characters care about it, but what it actually is doesn't ultimately matter to the story's resolution.
On set, they just put an orange light bulb in it to get that weird glow. Simple trick.
And the combination lock is 666. Make of that what you will.
People often compare it to the glowing case in Robert Aldrich's noir film Kiss Me Deadly.
Yeah, another pulp reference. In that movie, the case had, like, an atomic bomb in it or something equally apocalyptic.
But the big fan theory, the urban legend, is that it contains Marcellus Wallace's soul.
Which is fun to think about. But yeah, the sources point out people like Roger Ebert really shot that down, call it an urban legend given false credibility online. Probably not the intended meaning.
Still fun to debate, though. Then there's Jules' Bible passage, Ezekiel 25.17.
So iconic. Terrifyingly delivered by Jackson. But here's the kicker from the sources. A lot of it isn't actually Ezekiel 25.15.
Right. Those first two sentences, he says, Tarantino basically made them up, patching together bits of biblical-sounding phrases.
The second half is similar to the real verse, but the whole speech, including calling it Ezekiel 25.14, that comes from a Sonny Chiba martial arts movie.
Karate Kiba or The Bodyguard.
Exactly. That's pure Tarantino, isn't it? Taking something cool he saw in an obscure movie, repurposing it, giving it this kind of fake weight. It's more about Jules' ritual than deep theology.
So cool. Another thing the sources pick up on is the bathroom motif.
Yeah, Vincent Vega spends a surprising amount of time in the bathroom in this movie.
And it's like a running gag, but with serious consequences every time he goes in and comes back out.
The world has changed dramatically, usually leading straight into danger. The diner robbery starts while he's in there.
Mia's overdose happens while he's contemplating in the bathroom.
And ultimately, he gets killed coming out of the bathroom at Butch's apartment.
One analysis mentioned in the sources points out he's reading Modesty Blaise in there sometimes.
Another pulp reference.
Right. And this analysis suggests it maybe highlights his vulnerability in those private moments. Like, the bathroom is an escape, but it makes him miss crucial shifts outside. It's a clever visual pattern.
Definitely adds another layer to watching his scenes.
Okay, stepping back from the movie itself for a second. The production story, how it was received, its legacy, that's all part of this deep dive too.
Absolutely. Financially, it started pretty tight. Budget was aimed at $8.5 million, came in just under at $8 million.
And this was a huge deal for Miramax. It was the first film they fully financed after Disney bought them. High stakes.
And Lawrence Bender's strategy for paying the actors, pretty smart.
Yeah, pay everyone the same relatively low weekly rate, regardless of star power. But they got a piece of the profits.
Which turned out to be a very good deal for them. And Bruce Willis, even taking a pay cut, his name was massive.
Helped secure $11 million just in overseas rights, which, like you said, basically meant the film made its money back and then some, before it even opened domestically.
That just guaranteed it would be profitable, and it showed the huge potential for indie films in the global market at that time.
Then there's the music. It's like another character in the film.
Totally. No traditional score at all. Just this incredible, eclectic assortment, as the sources say. Surf rock, soul, pop.
Dick Dale's Misserlou over the opening credits.
Yeah.
Just perfect. Instantly iconic. Sets that whole tone.
And Tarantino picks surf music, not because he surfed, but because he thought it sounded like rock and roll spaghetti western music.
Huh. Another genre mashup. He apparently thought about using My Sharona by the Knack in the Pawn Shop basement scene.
Oof. Probably good he decided against that one.
Yeah. Music consultants Chuck Kelly and Laurel Lovelace helped find some tracks. Laura even played the waitress, didn't she?
Yeah, she pops up. And the soundtrack wasn't just popular, it sold millions. The sources argue it was really key to the film's whole vibe, its postmodern knowingness.
Especially compared to the soundtrack for Forrest Gump that same year, which was more, familiar counterculture hits. This felt different, cooler.
Definitely. And the reception, just huge. Mostly incredibly positive, but it definitely stirred things up.
Winning the Palme d'Or Cannes was massive, put it on the map immediately as a serious piece of art.
And the big American critics, for the most part, loved it. Ebert, People at Time, Newsweek, Rolling Stone. They called it smart, thrilling, groundbreaking.
Ebert said the screenplay was so well written in a scruffy fanzine way that you want to rub noses in it, which is such a great line.
It is. But yeah, not everyone was on board. Some critics had issues.
Concerns about the violence, obviously, accusations of homophobia, racism, or just it was all surface style, no real depth underneath.
It definitely sparked debate, which honestly is often what happens with films that really shake things up.
And its success, I mean, it just forever altered the game for independent film. That's not an exaggeration.
Not at all. It made Miramax the reigning indie superpower. and it completely exploded expectations for what an indie movie could achieve at the box office.
It proved there was this massive audience hungry for something different from the usual studio stuff.
Which led the major studios to either try and copy Miramax's strategies or start their own indie-style divisions or classics divisions.
It just became a cultural phenomenon. Quotes like "Royale with cheese" entered everyday language. It influenced music, tons of other movies.
Even art, like that Banksy piece with Travolta and Jackson holding bananas instead of guns, it's everywhere. And it's always on those greatest films of all time lists.
Deservedly so. Awards-wise, too. 7 Oscar nominations, 1 for Best Original Screenplay, plus tons of other awards.
And like we talked about with the casting, the impact on actors' careers, huge. Travolta's comeback, Jackson and Rams getting bigger roles, launching Thurman, it changed lives.
So finally, just thinking about Pulp Fiction in the context of Tarantino's whole career.
Yeah, the sources definitely see this as the film where his signature style really clicked into place, where all those elements came together.
You see everything that screams Tarantino, right? The nonlinear structure, the chapters.
That dialogue, the profanity, the way music just cuts off abruptly.
Specific shots, like the trunk shot view, the Mexican standoff, it's all there.
And the sources also talk about this being where the idea of a shared Tarantino universe really started to take shape.
With recurring fictional brands, Big Kahuna Burger, Red Apple cigarettes.
And even character connections, like the Vega brothers linking Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs.
Though his style, while recognizable, has evolved too, hasn't it? Sources note maybe more maturity later, or a focus on specific ideas like language in Inglourious Bastards.
True. And it's worth remembering Tarantino often puts himself in his movies, little cameos or narration.
And some characters almost seem to know they're in a Tarantino movie. That kind of metatextual awareness the sources mention adds another layer of fun.
Definitely part of his unique authorial voice.
So we've dug into a film that came from pulp, but had this incredibly ambitious structure, packed with memorable moments, weird facts, stuff that just sticks in your brain. It took crime stories we thought we knew, threw in a dose of just messy reality, and dared us, the audience, to figure it all out.
And it clearly worked. It's a film that people are still dissecting, still arguing about, still enjoying decades later. Its impact went way beyond just being a surprise indie hit.
So, for a film that's so carefully put together yet feels so chaotic sometimes, what does Pulp Fiction really tell us about storytelling? Or maybe just about being human, trying to talk about burgers while navigating, life and death situations?
It mixes the profound and the profane, the mundane and the extreme like few films ever have.
It takes those genre rules, bends them, breaks them, and kind of leaves you to ponder the pieces. So after hearing about all these layers, what stands out most to you?
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode and hope you like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time on Crime Breach.